Hi guys, in today's episode of Taylor Talks Trades, we are with Angela McKillop from We Love Your Projects and Angela McKillop Coaching. She is talking to us about her journey in the construction industry, a failed business in the construction industry, but how she's bounced back and used that as her superpower to build a new coaching business, We Love Your Projects. I hope you enjoy. Hi Angela.
How you doing?
Welcome to Taylor Talks Trades.
Thank you.
I'll start where I always start. How did you get into the trades then?
I got into the trades, my partner and I at the time went into property.
Yep.
And we decided to go all out at the age of 24 and build our own house. And we were winging it, absolutely no clue. But we're on this self-build site, and what we realised was there was a huge gap in the market for reliable tradespeople and tradespeople that did more than just one thing. Mm-hmm. And that's where the idea was born. So my husband was gas and heating to trade, and I like to think that I brought a kind of women's touch to it. So I brought a lot of the organisation, attention to detail, and that's basically how it started. And back then it was literally like an ad in the local paper, a phone number, we got a van and put leaflets through doors. That was basically how it worked. Yep. So that's how it all started. We got some work on the site that we were building a house on, and it sort of grew arms and legs from there. Started off in gas and heating, went into sort of bathrooms, and just grew from there. So that's how we get into it. Yep.
So it started building your own house, and then did you then start to do like refurbs for others, or were you doing was this like private work or sites as well, just a bit of everything? Or?
Bit of everything. So private work initially. Like I say, we picked up work from the sites, and then we liked this idea of refurb. So as I say, initially it was heating and bathrooms, but then people were saying, do you do kitchens? And we were yes people, so we just kept saying yes and then figured it out later. So brought staff on, had no idea how to manage people at that time, but it was more sort of refurbs, private work, and it was great. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
And then so what was the steps kind of moving on for that then? Where did that kind of lead to? So did it stay in property, or did you go into any sort of niche, or?
Yeah, it grew quite quickly. I think we earned quite a good reputation. Word of mouth was huge because of that women's touch. So our vans were immaculate, the staff were immaculate. I had this bugbear that there was no newspapers and iron brew bottles stuffed down the front of the van. You were not allowed to turn up like that.
Every company needs that, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Somebody's got to go tight.
Dust sheets, hoovers, all these things. So that earned us an absolutely brilliant reputation, and we grew massively through that. So we became quite successful in the first maybe 3 years. And then we get approached by a businessman who had log cabins, and he wanted us to put a price in for 14 kitchens and 21 bathrooms. So that was our first big contract. We thought we'd made it at that point. And it was the first big cheque, it was a cheque back then, of a deposit. So that started building strong relationships in that industry for sort of bigger contracts, and then eventually in year 5 we built this client's house, and then we get into the commercial side. So that's when the company really started to take off.
And how did the guys kind of that you had there? I'm presuming it was all tradesmen at the time. I know there's a few females breaking in now, but kind of that, how did they take to you being sort of their boss as such, or like how did that go?
Good question. I think I probably didn't really know how to be a boss back then. I just had a vision, and I was really good at, call it selling the dream, and really good at getting them on board with, this isn't just a case of you come to work every day and you do your job and you go home. Surely you guys enjoy that feedback as well. Do you not love it when the customers are happy? Do you get a kick out of that? So I really had them on board, and I think they enjoyed it. They'd never had that before. They came from sites and where it was all just about turning up, getting the job done, and you get a pat in the back and you get paid. So they probably get an insight into something really different as well, and enjoyed that feedback and interaction with me about the vision and interaction with the customers. So
it's definitely brings a different dynamic to the culture. Like as I've grew sort of my main company, Taylor Roofs, it's like we've had a lot of females in it like over the years, and it just gives such a good dynamic. Like I'm a massive fan of like females in the construction industry because it is so male dominated. But it's like there's just it's nothing to do with like sexism or anything like that. It's just like women have got different ideas, and I think maybe just because not in all circumstances, but a lot of the circumstances, like they've not necessarily came up like through on the tools. It's like they've learnt another skill. Like my wife Kelly, she had learned she was in the care sector and then after school clubs, so she knew all this management, but had to then bring it over and kind of use it on roofers. And it was like, it probably was a bit of a strange dynamic to start with, but it gives a good, definitely a good dynamic. And I know that sort of myself and probably even all our guys, they probably secretly love that they've just got a mother figure or somebody who kind of, it's almost like that thing, like, you need somebody to say, tidy your room or do this. It's like, that's so right. Like, even as tradesmen, I think guys get that as well. Definitely. And then, so was that the peaky things? I know things that have been a bit publicised this week that you lost that business. What, did it go any higher, or was it like, where did the cracks start to appear in that, and what lessons maybe did you learn?
Big question. So that was sort of year 5 that we got into the commercial side. So year 5 we turned over just over 5 million at that point. So it was a big operation, but it was running smooth, it was running great, got a lot of contracts in, and that continued to grow to year 10. And in 2016, that's when the company collapsed. And you know, that magic question of what happened, where did it go wrong? Because it was a very successful company and it was fairly robust in terms of how we were managing things. The big answer to that is we didn't spread the risk. So we had a huge client that was responsible for maybe about 80% of our revenue at the time. And when we lost that client, we were sort of scrambling to try and, you know, pay the bills and pay the overheads, which, as you can imagine, were pretty huge at the time. So we started to sort of downsize and try and protect it. Obviously, coming out the other end of a recession as well, our margins were quite high and we were having to, you know, scale back. So there was lots of elements, and it just became to a point where it wasn't sustainable anymore. And we tried to save it personally for a long time. So unfortunately, we got into a real bad financial situation personally through trying to save the company. And eventually we just couldn't do it anymore. So 2016 was when it officially collapsed. What did I learn from that? A massive amount. What we went through at that time was nothing that I could ever prepared myself for, because people don't understand what you go through as a person, what you go through emotionally. So there was a big loss of purpose, there was a lack of self-belief, there was embarrassment, there was shame, there was guilt. And it was a horrible time, to be honest. And we felt like we had nobody to speak to, nobody got it. We didn't know anybody that had lost a big business. So, it was just a horrible time. But it was a funny time as well, because I always knew that I was never going to get a job. I knew that there was always going to be another business. I just didn't know how or when. And obviously that's been massively publicised this week. The Daily Record, The Sun, Glasgow Live have got a hold of it. And we chatted earlier about the hate around that, even though it's a very vulnerable story about failure.
They're authentically putting it out there rather than trying to cover it up, I think.
Absolutely. And it's important, and it's important to me to raise awareness, because one thing that I did uncover back then was the mental health issues around people who lose businesses. Very scary suicide rates as well.
Can imagine.
And that's a big reason why I share my story, because I'm hoping that I can help someone who's sitting in that position today to go, that's okay, she survived and she's okay and she's built herself back up. Because I didn't think that was possible at the time. But here we are. We've built another successful business very differently this time. Spread the risk, learn from the mistakes, and I'm very, very fortunate we're sitting with another 7-figure business today. So.
No, that's good. Well done for getting through that. And what then, do you think then there was a part of almost, like I probably went through a wee bit of this journey, like we'd always been private homeowners, and then we started working for house builders and we took a lot of it on, and you thought, oh, this is what we've always wanted, the longer term contracts. And then we got into that and we realised it was very, very small margins. We weren't really able to make money because we didn't quite yet have enough of that to keep all our team busy. So we had some guys on private work and some guys on the sites, and then we were sending guys, but the job wasn't, like they were saying the job was ready, then it wasn't ready. We weren't maybe getting paid when we wanted to get paid. So we very quickly found that if we didn't let that go, we would have went bust. And it was our accountant that said to us, and at that time we just started, this is probably around about similar time, if you said that was 2016, I think this was sort of 2016 into 2017 for us. Our accountant basically said, you need to let go of that and go back to your private model or you're going to collapse. And like that for me was very difficult, because I'd went to no mention any names, but I'd went to some of the kind of prestigious like house builders, suit and tie, sort of had thought this is me trying to make that step and built these relationships and got in there and thought, I've worked really hard to do that, to then have to go back and say, we're not going to be able to continue with this. It was quite worrying, but my business would have collapsed if I didn't do that. So it was just like taking that advice. But that was a bit of a long-winded way to the question I was going to ask you. I was just going to say, did you feel like at that 5 million point, like the business was, did you think that was it? You'd made it and like life, like it was fine, like nothing, like unstoppable almost.
Absolutely, felt unstoppable. And we did exactly what you said there. This was like the best thing ever, because you're trying to get 5 or 6 Mrs. Smiths and Mrs. Browns every week.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you've got this big client who's just throwing you work.
Yeah.
And that financial security and peace of mind just took the pressure off.
Yeah.
And you're only dealing with one person. You've not got phones ringing 5 times a day, 10 times a day.
Yeah.
So I think for us, and I see a lot of people go down that route, really think it's great. And you are 100% right, Jamie, when you start to look at the margins, all the snagging that you don't account for, the things not being ready, falling behind, all these things had an impact. So in the sort of latter years, when we looked at profitability in these bigger jobs that we thought were great, and of course you've got everybody looking in and saying, you guys are flying, you're doing amazing, and we're starting to look at the numbers going, oh, wait a minute, this isn't stacking up the way that we thought it would. And these are multi-million-pound projects, that should have been profitable, but you're inexperienced in terms of the management of that and the bodies that you're throwing at it. And then the client's putting you under pressure and you're going, right, we'll get another 5 people there, no problem. Yeah. You're not sitting job costing thinking, well, wait a minute, how much is this actually costing me? What's coming off my
That is the thing as well, like the trades in particular, it's so difficult to actually make profit because there's so many variables. Like somebody might not turn up, the guys might just take a wee bit longer, materials might not show, a skip didn't show when it was meant to, so the guys stacked the stuff and now had to double handle. Like there is literally, like there could be variations in it depending on what kind of stuff you're doing, uncover something else. Like there's literally like a massive list of things that can get in your way doing that. And then when you've got like multiple contracts like that, it can be very difficult. I think as well with the house builder stuff, which is probably a bit different from the sort of developer maybe stuff you were doing, but you're kind of almost tied into the costs as well, and you almost feel like you can't really say, by the way, this cost more, so we need to, like, you just feel like you're not allowed, so you just take it all on yourself, and then it does collapse businesses. It's actually scary, to be honest, but
you're right, you do absorb those costs because I think you're thinking of the long game.
You try to think of your reputation. You don't want to build this reputation for, they started the job and then they added money on, or they did this. And as our companies have grew, like we've got better at probably speaking to the clients and at the beginning to say, look, once we open this bit up, there is a potential that like nobody can see if these trusses are rotted or not. So here's the caveat that says, if they are, this is exactly what we'll do. We'll stop the works, we'll photograph it, we'll bring it to you, and we'll explain, look, this does need change, this is what it's going to cost, or we'll try and give like an estimated cost beforehand, which is sometimes difficult to do because you can't see it, but we try to prepare them for that, so it's not a case of, someday the next quote to us might be cheaper, but they might just open the roof up and just like fix it and then say, look, we had to do that while it was open, it was going to rain. That person's in fear and they've got to pay it. It's
that transparency, isn't it? Trying to be transparent as much as you can. Yeah,
and I think as trades business owners or tradesmen or anybody doing trades work, it's like you've kind of got you've got a bit of like a authority in a sense. Like you're going into that homeowner's world or that client's world, and you're actually kind of like, you're the expert. So you're saying to them, it is your duty to make sure that they know like all the potential things that could happen. Anyway, moving on, what's the bounce back been then? How did you get up off the ground and sort of do it again? Like what? Well,
it took me a while. I wasn't a rocky overnight success where I just got back up. It took a long time.
Yeah.
We isolated ourselves for a long time.
Yeah.
Didn't want to see anybody, speak to anybody. That constant fear of meeting people that were going to say, oh, what happened? It was horrible. It's quite a big story, actually. Like when I see it in the paper this week as well, and I'm like, everybody's just going to have their opinions, and it's just like, it's just got a hook to it, and it's like, wow, everybody just wants to be nosy and know, but like you said, they didn't see the person or the people that's underneath. They don't.
Like, because the straining anxieties and stress and pressures that go into just running like a successful business, never mind when it does go wrong. Like that's the thing you fear for all that time. It's almost sometimes like you maybe you maybe even invite it in because you're panicking that much that I might just lose this next week, that
That's right.
you can build all that up. But how did you do it then?
Sometimes people were asking through good intentions,
Mm-hmm.
but even that was a conversation that I didn't want to have. I
Yeah.
didn't want to have to answer, how was I? Because what do you say?
Well, it's raw at
I'm
that
miserable.
point. Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
fearful. I'm questioning myself every day.
Yeah.
I'm hardly sleeping. How are you?
Yeah.
It's not a conversation that you want to have. So even with the people who had good intentions, it was still really tough. So
Yeah.
the easiest way was to isolate and go inwards.
Yep.
Lucky we had each other to talk through it.
That's
but
massive.
even personally, we were going through a very different set of emotions and process,
Yeah.
And one day, he'd maybe be a bit more positive and upbeat and I wasn't, and then vice versa. So even that was difficult. But
I can imagine that.
basically the sort of turnaround for me, believe it or not, we'd worked with an interior designer, a guy called John Amabley, who was did the 60-minute makeover. Became a bit of a friend, and I met with him for a coffee and was just saying, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. This is really, really bad. And he said, listen, I've got this ticket if you want it on Saturday. It's this event. It's called A Day to Change Your Life. I did not do networking. I did not do self-development and stuff at that point. And for whatever reason, I took it. I thought, right, okay, and that title, A Day to Change Your Life, I thought, that's exactly what I need.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is and I don't know what I'm going to learn, but that's what I need. And it was a Saturday morning and I went along and there was about 250 people in the room, and this celebrity life coach came on and started sharing sort of insights about how you can turn your life around. But the big flip for me was listening to other people in that room. And people were standing up sharing the most horrendous, horrific, awful stories about their life. And I'd been in this lull for about 6 months, probably victim mentality, feeling sorry for myself, and I listened to them and I suddenly thought, my life's absolutely fine. I've got a roof over my head. I've got a wee boy who's healthy. I've got a husband. I've got my family. I think I'm okay. I think I'm going to manage to do this. So that was probably the first wee shift in terms of picking myself up off the floor and knowing that I had to make changes. And it was in the days after that I decided I was going to help people. I wanted to help people not go through what I went through. I wanted to teach them about the mistakes initially in trades businesses, but what I learned was these mistakes apply to most businesses. It's not just trades. So I built a 6-month program and I went out and just met face to face and sold it. I got 13 people signed up. And the night before, I nearly cancelled it. I woke up at 4 in the morning. So this is
an event you put on and 13 people coming along?
13 people, a 6-month course. We were meeting one day for 6 months, one day every month for 6 months. And I woke up at 4 in the morning and I thought, I can't do this. I can't do it. I can't stand in front of these people. Who's going to want to be coached from someone that's lost a business? I can't do it. And my husband Stephen said to me, they've invested in this. They've bought into you. Nobody's going to say why you're here or why I should listen to you. So I went through with it and it was the best decision I ever made. So I managed to transform these people's businesses over the course of 6 months, and that gave me my confidence back. It was like my therapy. So I started to believe that maybe I wasn't as bad as I thought I was. Maybe I did have some knowledge and experience, and that definitely picked me back up off the floor. And then it was December 2019, Steve and I decided with a bit of unfinished business, we really wanted to go back into the trades and see what we could do again. And I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was ego. I don't know if it was, I don't know what it was. If it was just that desire to prove to yourself or whatever that was. But We Love Your Projects was born in 2019 and launched in January 2020, 3 months before COVID.
Oh my.
So that was a challenge as well. But again, going through COVID was actually empowering because I felt like everyone was going through it. Whereas when we lost the business in 2016,
that makes a lot of sense.
Felt like we were the only people.
Yeah.
So we were
and
rising
it wouldn't
at
have been,
that
by
point.
the way, because you think how many businesses collapsed that year, it would be like thousands or probably more.
Oh, definitely.
So,
you don't feel like that and you don't see it.
Absolutely.
But so that's how...
I was kind of picking up on a few things there. I think like losing a business is probably just like, it's as bad as probably losing a family member. Like you would have went through a grieving process, and
it was.
Like you're probably like, you're maybe blaming Stephen, he's blaming you, then you're blaming each other, then you're blaming yourself, then you're blaming, and then you go through almost
everyone, the clients, the accountant.
these stages of sort of like blame, excuse, denial, all the different bits. But it sounds as though like gratitude brought you back down, like when you
100%.
like I've focused on that a lot over the years myself with gratitude. I used to be kind of in a bit of a victim mentality as well. Even when the business would be deemed to be fairly successful, like for the outside looking in, it was a good business. You know, it was over £1 million turnover and stuff, and it was profitable, and we had a lot of a team, but there was maybe just like personal things going on in my life and that as well. And I did let it, like that process, take too long, I think. But it was when I started to probably look a wee bit more at sort of gratitude and like people used to, I used to follow a guy, and he said, write down 5 things you're grateful for every day. And you look at it and you're like, I'm a roofer to trade, you know, and it's like maybe a wee bit further down the line now, like being a business owner and stuff. But like, to be honest, you're looking at that and going, oh, aye,
this is nonsense.
I'll write down 5. But then you start doing it, and then not 9 times out of 10, it is my wife, my kids, I've got a roof over my head, all the things that you mentioned, got family around me. Actually, at that point, I've still got a business that actually does provide for me, and you're going, for what else? Exactly. Like, if you go back 10 years ago, what else would you have asked for in life? It wouldn't have been any more than that. So
true.
And so I like that you picked that up. So what sort of mindset, that's one of the topics that we said we would speak about, and we've probably touched on it a wee bit, but what sort of things are you doing then with business owners to flip that mindset? How do you get them to get the person like me who was like wishy-washy, I'm not writing 5 things down, to then actually doing it? How do you get them to take that practice? Like, what happens?
I think the first thing that I can explain to them is my personal journey. My mindset when things went wrong versus my mindset when things go right. So I've got living proof. What I also like to do is get their goals. Where are you going? Where do you want to be? And actually, who do you aspire to be like? And what are they doing? You know, these are guys that don't operate from a place of fear or a lack of self-belief. These are people that are working on themselves. These are people who have a strong mindset. These are people who are expressing gratitude, they're meditating, they're exercising. We need to adopt those traits. So if you want to aspire to be like that person, you need to adopt their traits. And that's how I get them round. And, you know, I work with a lot of trades guys. My husband was one of them as well, where, you know, and he jokes about it. He's like, if somebody told me I'd be meditating and expressing gratitude and journaling and, you know, listening to all this fluff and doing cold water, and he said I would have laughed. But I think it's that thing, and you'll understand this, it becomes addictive when you see the results and the benefits of it, and how clear your mind can be, and how it lifts your mood, and how you become a bit more focused, and that change in your mindset, it becomes a wee bit addictive. So that's how I get them to at least sort of buy into it, and it's baby steps. You know, it's not giving it all. It's not, you know, give up your life, give up everything that you're doing just now, and this is your new life. It's let's try it. And I love to say it as, listen, what you got to lose? It's free. It's all free. I'm not asking you to invest in this stuff. Just spend 5 minutes of your time. Let's see what happens.
No, absolutely.
And they all come round to it. It's amazing.
It makes a lot of sense, and I think I was probably interested myself because when I seen the story in the paper, and we were speaking before that, and you were coming on the podcast before that anyway, and it just dropped at that same time. But when I seen that, I thought, like, I'm not going to lie, it did pass through my mind. I said, would you rather be coached by somebody who's been successful and had it plain sailing all the way, or somebody who's maybe had the failures but then bounced back, and you know, and I think it gives quite I keep using the word, a nice dynamic to it, but it is. It's just, it's not the norm. It's like, but I guess I think it shines a different light on it. But to see that you've actually picked yourself up, and that's the thing. It's like, it's maybe somebody who's totally successful and on a straight line or upward trajectory. Although in business we know it never is that. But if they think it is, it's probably not them that needs the help anyway. It's somebody who is going, I can't get out of this rut, and you know, it's people who are a wee bit stuck, and they need to, and if you can go back and relate to say I was like that, and I'm the same. Like I mentor a couple of people, I mentor a lot of people actually in my business, but external to that as well, and that's what I'm authentic about it. I'm like, I was a victim, and now, like, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I can't believe that. And I was just saying it to like my wife yesterday. Like when we first started working with a business coach, I think it was actually in 2016, I remember how negative I was. And this guy would come in and he would say, he actually said this to me, it was quite direct, but he said, you're actually too ungrateful. That's what's wrong with you. And it really hurt my ego bad. And I was like, what does he mean I'm ungrateful? And then after that process, once the ego had calmed down a wee bit, I started to do like the journaling, and I was like, I'm ungrateful, because I was focusing, like I was laser focusing on like the one problem.
Yeah.
And at that time we maybe had like 16 guys on the tools, like there was a lot happening. We probably, in theory, we'd maybe grew a wee bit too quick in terms of like I had never managed that amount of people before.
Yep.
I was trying to like pull Kelly into the business to try and help. I was like, how do you do this? But that's how you learn, I guess.
That's
And
right.
I think at that time when I started looking more at the gratitude stuff, then that was what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
And another thing that he said was that he just basically said, you've not got a business, like you just own a job. And again, I was like, the ego was going again, and you're like, do you know, you'd kind of, to be honest, being a kind of traditional trades guy that's just always just worked hard and been on the tools, and then sort of trying to have that, you're almost leaving this thing to go to this new thing, and you're halfway across and somebody's just telling you like you've not even got a business. It's like, it's quite a hard blow to take. But when you actually take it and let it digest, then you say, well, if they might be right, because like, why would they be telling, like, it's coming from a good place.
Exactly.
Then you can start to say, well, what could I do to change that?
That's right. We call it champagne problems now.
Yeah.
Because that's what they are, you know, and we still default, you know, every now and again. I've got 7 years of really good mindset training, but you still default, you know, but it's catching yourself and it's being aware. And Stephen and I hold each other accountable as well. So, you know, he'll maybe say like, oh, God, payday again, and I need to get this in, I need to get that in. And I'm like, oh, poor you having to find your 30 grand's worth of wages this week. Like, poor you, champagne problems, be quiet. These are problems that we would have died for 7 years ago.
Absolutely.
So it's about flipping that. It's not to say that, you know, we float through life now and we're all sitting with fluffy pens writing our gratitude lists and blah, blah, blah. Absolutely not.
It's not, but it's the balance.
Recognising.
It is. It's the balance. Like we spoke before we came on air kind of thing, and it was like I've not meditated in months, but I love Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and I've studied it for years, and but it's seasonal for me, and sometimes it's just, I've just not managed to squeeze it in, and that's probably totally against everything that he would say. And it's like, if you can't, like if you've not got time for it, that means you need to do double the amount or something. And
that's right.
It's like, I know I need to get back to it. That's the main thing. I know that I've been focused on driving things forward and working hard, and you probably can't do that all the time, but there is seasons where you've just got to kind of get the head down and get the backside up a wee bit and actually just go and get things done.
You do.
But it is having that balance to kind of pull back from it a wee bit when you need to as well.
That's right.
What would you say is like, what's the biggest problem that you find in, or not so much problem, but what's the biggest blocker for, I would imagine a lot of the people that's coming to you, I'm assuming, but it's maybe like trades business owner that's sort of self-employed, maybe a couple of people with them, but wants to sort of make that break. Like what do you think it is that's holding them back? Like what's the biggest thing you see? Like
the biggest thing that I see is in any business, not just the trades, but people in that scenario that you've mentioned there, they want to grow, but they feel that in order to grow, everything comes back to them. Yeah. So it's like, well, I need to implement things, or I need to make more decisions, or that work's going to fall back on me. Or, so they end up staying in the same place for too long because they want to grow, they're just not sure how. And I see a lot of people, they want to make more money, but it's like, well, how do you get to that next level? What's the way? Because to use the trade guys, it's like, well, I need more guys and I need more vans to make more money. And actually the ones that I've got are causing me immense amount of headaches. So why would I want to bring more of that on? That's what I see. And what I try and teach them is that there's different ways to grow, and what we need to do is calm the chaos. Most of the people that I work with, they're working maybe 7-8 hours a week. They're maybe not making the money that they thought they would, or they're not getting a chance to enjoy the money that they are making. So that's typically the type of people that I work with. But and also the flip side, people that just can't seem to get the right types of clients in, or they're hitting that reset button every month where it's like, all right, okay, that's that paid, now it's the first of the month again, and we go again. And they're just exhausted with it, because then it's that job thing that you spoke about. It's like, am I actually owning a business here, or am I just working to pay my bills?
I was actually speaking to my wife about this last night. This is you'll probably relate to it a wee bit, but we'll, like, every night we literally talk about business or some, you know, and it's just part of who we are now. But we were talking about like sort of almost like self-employment as a bit of a trap. Like you almost get this dream of, oh well, I'll leave this and I'll probably be able to easily replace this wage and I'll be able to do that and I'll have this freedom. And it's like, it's like your shoulder dream where it's like, I'll start up, I'll get my own van and I'll do this. And then very quickly you're like, I need help. So you bring people in. Absolutely. And then like, I recall in the earlier days, like, my brother and then my first sort of, well, he was my first apprentice and first employee, and then the other guy that we took on, this was quite quick, so we had a team of 3 like in our first kind of year, like early, and I remember like paying them more than I was getting paid.
Yeah,
some weeks, and because like I didn't know where the work was coming from, so like we were going and working away, and we'd be staying in like a hotel to try and get the job done quicker and like have less travel time. And I remember like paying them, like I remember them weeks like making like 300 quid a week. And I was like, I had a van to pay, I had both them guys to pay, I had the materials to pay and all this stuff. And I was getting left with like this £300 a week. And I was like, I've just left a job that was like, it wasn't much more than that at the time, but it was like, it was maybe like $350 and all I had to do was turn up.
Exactly.
You know, and I was like, wow. And just, it just kind of opened my eyes to go,
absolutely right.
This is that I've been sold the wrong dream here.
You're absolutely right. Do you know, I speak about this all the time. Actually, did a post about it, and I said people make this transition from the rat race, the 9-to-5 rat race, and they think that's it. You know, like we were speaking about earlier, you're all excited, you're ready to go. You know, you're taking on the world. And what they don't realise is they've just entered into, I call it the business owner battle. Yeah. And that business owner battle is full of things that you have no idea about unless you're in it. And it's full of procrastination, overthinking, stress, pressure, chaos, staff, clients, time, all these things. And nobody ever teaches you that. And I think the other thing that I speak about all the time is we spend our whole lives being held accountable by people, our teachers, our parents, our first boss, and then we go out on our own and we start our own business on our own. And it's quite good at first because you're a wee bit cocky because you're like, oh, I don't need to like rush back from lunch, or do you know what, I can go to the gym at 9 o'clock in the morning because I'll catch that later and I'll do this. So you get cocky with it and it's enjoyable. But what we don't see happening is that things mount up. So all these great ideas that we have never get implemented. You never get around to them because you're up against it. The to-do list gets bigger. The invoices are sitting there that haven't been sent out. There's quotes, there's customers to get back to, there's emails, and all of a sudden you hit that bang and you go, what am I doing here? And how do I get out of it? Where do I start? And what do you do? How do people manage their time? And then people do what everybody does, they become the admin person. And they spend 60, 70% of their time dealing with phone calls, emails, invoices, quotes.
It's crazy.
You know, booking in MOTs, and you're like, what am I doing here? I thought I was just going to go out and do what I enjoyed. And I was going to make twice as much as what I was making. And actually I'm under twice as much pressure. I'm making half the amount. I'm working more hours.
Exactly.
And that's what people don't tell you.
And now you're not even doing something you enjoy, because it's like, you know, like me being a roofer, it's like, you're not even able to be on a roof anymore at this point. You're just trying to organise everything else.
Can't do what you're good at.
It does get easier though. Somebody asked me the other day, we had a nice lad from Bradford on the podcast, and it was kind of, he's only had his roofing business 2 years, maybe 3 years, and he asked me, like, sort of once we were done, he said, can you just tell me, like, this freedom thing and that they say, does it get better? And I said, well, mate, look, I'm doing in Bradford, recording a podcast with you, whilst my business is, one of my businesses is 35 plus people, the other one, that's, like, they're operating, and I'm not there. I said, so, yes, but that's 11 years nearly that I've been doing this. Time. And also, I think, like, probably you might be biased because you mentor people, but I think, like, mentors are important. I think you need to, I think what, probably 2 things I would say is get a mentor quick and, like, listen to what they're saying even quicker.
Definitely.
Because I had a mentor quite, like, we went from sort of 2012, 2013 up till 2016 to 17 was probably like my self-employed years, with like a couple of guys and a few vans, and but like in 2017 we sort of limited company, VAT registered, a big change, took it away from Jamie Taylor Roofing and moved it to Taylor Roofs, and started to try to create a bit of a brand and stuff, and
a big boy business.
Yes, put the big boy pants on kind of thing. But we round about that time, like, we did get a mentor, but like all the things I remember that person was telling me then, and I wasn't listening, like, I just couldn't see the wood for the trees as such. Like, it was like you said, it was just so busy, and you just sometimes can't fix the problem when you're in it. But like, I sometimes, that's another question that I've been kind of throwing up is, like, are people just ready when they're ready, or like, because like, I probably wasn't ready then.
Yeah.
But he was saying all the things that like now makes a total sense to me.
That's right.
And like probably at that time, like we maybe even stopped working together, and I was like, well, this isn't really helping. But I don't know if I just needed that wee bit of, sometimes you just need to kind of fail yourself a couple of times. And
definitely,
even though somebody's saying, here's the blueprint, here's the pathway, it's like sometimes you need them wee bit of maybe added, all right, that didn't feel very good, and then you're like, I should have listened to that guy, kind of thing. But
that's right. I think that, do you need to be ready? I think ready, are you ever ready? You ever
Never,
ready to have a family?
really.
Are you ever ready to get married? Are you ever
No.
ready to start a business? Probably never ready. I think the big sort of flag for me is that you won't change.
Yeah.
You want something to change. You don't know what, maybe.
Yeah.
You don't know how.
Yeah.
But you won't change. You don't want to stay in this position that
Yeah.
you're in. That's a really good point of going, right, who can I speak to? Where can I get help? And for me, it's about pulling that out of people, you know, and a big thing that I do with the trades guys, the very, very first thing is like, right, let's write down the 3 things that are taking up the most time and the most pressure.
Yeah.
Just writing it down. And it's all in there. They know it. They can answer me like that. Nobody's ever sitting and went, I don't know what that is. It's like, oh, can I give you 10 things? I'm like, well, let's do the top 3.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes seeing that written down and going, do you know what? Right, so why is it taking up so much time?
Yeah.
Why are you feeling under pressure? And a lot of the time it's just because they're not dealing with it. And a lot of it's staff, you know, and sometimes there's staff in there that maybe aren't the right fit.
Yeah.
And that takes up stress and pressure and time, and you're hand holding, and right, so what are we going to do about it? When's the last time that you actually had a conversation with this guy to say, let's streamline this? How can I help you and how can you help me? Let's make this easier. You don't want me on your back. I don't want to be stressing out. So when's the last time? Oh, I've never had a conversation. Right, so that's where the pressure comes from. Or is it a case of this guy doesn't fit here anymore, but he maybe fits over there. Can we move him? So it's about pulling that information out, and that honestly, it's the simplest exercise. What's the 3 things that's causing you the most stress and taking up the most time, and where can we streamline it?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think I think the biggest enemy of males, because I'm not too sure about females, and I didn't want to comment for these, but like for males in the construction industry, ego's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
And when I, like, basically the awkward conversations you're talking about, I never used to know how to have them. So we had like 16 guys and ran out of work one time, and I never paid anybody else because I didn't know how to do it. So we just lost 30 grand that year. And it was like, I ended up, I think I read a book, I think it's called The Tools.
Okay.
And it's basically about like, there's a big cloud there, and the quicker you go in, then the quicker you come out the other side. And it's I just basically threw myself into awkward conversations. And what I realised is like, I've always been quite a giving person. I like to employ people, give people jobs, give back into the community.
That's right.
So like, the last thing I ever want to do is have to terminate someone's contract, get rid of someone, whatever way you want to put it. So I actually trained myself to have the awkward conversations earlier, rather than the really awkward one to be, I need to let you go because this is really bad.
Absolutely.
It's like, give that person the actual, like, the chance to know what's wrong and change it. And what I've found is further down the line now, like where it's mostly my management team that I'll mentor and deal with, like that's what I do with the guys. I didn't do this with the women, they keep me in check. But like contracts manager, contract supervisor, like I say to them, this is your ego. Explain to them what ego is and how it can help them succeed, but also how it can defeat them. And then I just try and strip layers off it, because I'm like, that's what I had to do. And then they're quite like, they're listening. So, and then when things are like coming up, they're like, oh, that's my ego, do you know, or the chimp, the inner chimp, like Chimp Paradox. I don't know if you've read that book, but do you know, it's like, so it's just a learning process. It's just all of these things that I think we get scared that we start a business and then we think that we should know it all. But why should we know it all? Because we never learned it in school, and we didn't learn it in college when we were learning roofing or joinery or plumbing or heating or whatever. And then you get to that point and then really you're just doing it for the first ever time.
That's it. And if you're growing, you're learning.
And I think that's the thing with mentors and stuff as well. They can quite easily say, read that book. There's that, like, you can point you in the right direction a bit quicker. But like you said, I think it is good if someone sort of, you get that feeling, and I've had it quite a few times in my life, but a feeling comes up and you just think, there's got to be something else. This cannot be it. That rat race, and you're busy all the time, and like you thought you were going to have more time to enjoy with your family, and now you're never seeing them and things. And
I think it's just almost having somebody as well, because business can be lonely if you're not surrounded by other business people. And I think that's why a lot of people like a coach or a mentor, because most of my conversations is running ideas past me. So they'll say, right, so I'll have this conversation with my member of staff, or, you know, how do I have it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you tell me and then I'll tweak it. It's like, right, well, I was just going to say this. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. But what you also want to say is this, and make sure you're covering your back and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, right, okay, that's fine. So sometimes it's just having that person to give you that clarity that, oh, do you know what, I'm doing the right thing, or I am capable of having these conversations and I don't know why I'm not doing it. Absolutely. So that's a big part of it as well.
And what's happening now? Where are you going next? Is it just continue to help more people? Is the Wheel of Your Projects, is that still growing? Is that
so? Wheel of Your Projects is doing really well now. We've got a business partner, which is actually a really nice story. Jamie Gemmell, who actually was introduced to me to get help in his own business.
Ah, right, okay.
And
I've seen him on LinkedIn, and he's quite a positive guy, so
very
you
positive.
Must be rubbing off on him.
I know, I hope so. So he came in one of my trades days. I do trades courses, and then he signed up to a 6-month programme. And I said to my husband, I said, this guy's got something. He's first here, he's last to leave. Yeah. His quality of work's great. He's really passionate about what he does. So we had a conversation, and we ended up bringing his business under our banner. Yep. And now, just recently, about 6 months ago, Jamie is director and shareholder of the whole of projects. Wow. So he is our operations director. Yep. This is a guy that's just invested in himself and created opportunity, but he's phenomenal at what he does. Brilliant. He's learned as he's went, because he was specifically electrical. Now he gets it. He knows kitchens, bathrooms inside out, the whole process from start to finish. We've got a lot of trust, but he runs the day-to-day. That's good. And Stephen and I have become almost consultants. We're still directors and shareholders, but I think when you start to look at your business as from a consultant's perspective, you'll get this. Yeah, absolutely. You can make better decisions. Yeah. The emotions out of it. Yeah. You can see it. We always wanted, to be honest, to make good decisions while no fighting a fire, basically. And you're hearing about the issues after they've been resolved. Yeah. And that, you talked about the people that said, does it get better? I think that's the ultimate goal for every business owner out there, knowing that they've got people. And this doesn't need to be, multi-millions and 100 members of staff. It just needs to be people that you can trust, that can do a job, that you can rely on, that you can bounce ideas off of, that can help with that pressure and stress of the day-to-day running. Absolutely. And what we do with Jamie is, if he's needing to run a decision by us, it's, we speak to him every day on the phone, but it's, listen guys, what do you think? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I've handled this, I've handled that. It's music to our ears, and he's created an opportunity for himself as well. That's brilliant. So, projects, I consult to them once a week now, so just 1 day a week, and my main focus is on the coaching and mentorship side of things now. And then if anybody's want to reach out to you, what's the best platform or that to get you on? LinkedIn, I'm very active on, and Instagram is like a dear diary for me. People will see the highs, the lows. There's a lot of value in there as well, because I try and give sort of hints and tips of things that I've maybe helped my clients with, or things that I know business owners tend to go through. So Angela McKillop Business is Instagram. I'm very active on there. Perfect. Well, thanks very much, Angela. Thanks for coming on. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Jamie.